Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity, and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. This is my 20th visit to Canada, spread over the course of more than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, every time I come to Canada, a little more of Canada seeps into my bloodstream, and from there, straight to my heart. I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day. On Juno Beach, at Dieppe, on the Somme, at Beaumont-Hamel, at Ypres, and on Vimy Ridge. At those places and many others, forever etched into our memories, Canadians fought and died alongside our closest allies. Today,
I see elected members of Parliament from all across this country, from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, Victoria in British Columbia, and Arviat in Nunavut. I see the custodians of the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Canadian Charter. As King, I wish to thank you for serving your fellow Canadians from all across this vast and beautiful country.
You speak for your communities, representing an incredible richness of cultures, languages, and perspectives. We owe it to this generation and those who succeed us to think and act for the greater good of all. While the world faces unprecedented challenges, generating uncertainties across the continents with regards to peace and stability, economics and climate change, your communities have the skills and determination to bring a wealth of solutions. En encourageant la collaboration,
by encouraging collaboration and holding respectful and constructive debates, you will enable this government to take bold and fair-minded actions for the well-being of all Canadians.
It has been nearly 70 years since the Sovereign first opened Parliament. In the time since, Canada has dramatically changed, repatriating its constitution, achieving full independence, and witnessing immense growth. Canada has embraced its British, French, and Indigenous roots and become a bold, ambitious, innovative country that is bilingual, truly multicultural, and committed to reconciliation. The Crown has for so long been a symbol of unity for Canada. It also represents stability and continuity from the past to the present. As it should, it stands proudly as a symbol of Canada today, in all her richness and dynamism. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect. The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades, is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing. Il nous faut confronter la réalité.
We must confront the reality that since the Second World War, our world has never been as dangerous and unstable. Canada is now facing challenges which are unprecedented in our lifetimes.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity, an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Simultanément,
at the same time, the government is working to strengthen its relations with reliable trading partners and allies, knowing that Canada has what the world needs and defends the values that the world respects. Canada is ready to build a coalition of nations that share these values, nations that believe in international cooperation and the free exchange of goods, services, and ideas. In this new world, which is evolving at a frantic pace, Canada will chart the path forward. That will be demonstrated as early as June when Canada chairs the G7 summit.
The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million. Le gouvernement assurera la pérennité de programmes.
The government will ensure the sustainability of programs that allow families to save thousands of dollars each year. In particular, the child care and pharmacare programs. Additional progress will include the expansion of the Canadian Dental Care Program, which will soon be available to approximately 8 million Canadians, thus allowing them to save an average of more than $800 a year.
The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian economy out of 13. Internal barriers to trade and labor mobility cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labor mobility by Canada Day. Les premiers ministres de plusieurs provinces et
The premiers of several provinces and territories have already taken steps to eliminate barriers to internal trade. The government will support that progress by establishing true free trade across Canada by Canada Day. These are critical actions that will enable Canada to realize its full economic potential. But it is not enough.
To build Canada strong, the government is working closely with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to identify and catalyze projects of national significance. Projects that will connect Canada, that will deepen Canada's ties with the world, and that will create high-paying jobs for generations. Given the pace of change and the scale of opportunities, speed is of the essence. Through the creation of a new major federal project office, the time needed to approve a project will be reduced from 5 years to 2, all while upholding Canada's world-leading environmental standards and its constitutional obligations to Indigenous peoples. The government will also strike cooperation agreements with every interested province and territory within 6 months to realize its goal of one project, one review. When Canadians come together, Canada builds things that last. Éliminer ces obstacles qui freinent l'économie canadienne.
Eliminating barriers that hold back the Canadian economy will make it possible to usher in a new era of growth, thanks to which Canada will not only overcome the challenge of trade wars, but emerge stronger than ever. That will allow it to become a superpower when it comes to green and conventional energy.
de bâtir une stratégie industrielle
to build an
qui
industrial
rendra le
strategy
Canada plus compétitif
that will
à
make Canada more
l'international,
competitive on the
tout en
international
luttant
stage,
contre les
while at the
changements
same time
climatiques,
fighting climate change,
de bâtir des centaines de milliers de
to build
bonnes
hundreds
carrières
of thousands
dans
of
les
good
métiers
careers in the
spécialisés,
trades,
et donc de faire
and
du
thus
Canada
make
une plaque
Canada
tournante pour la
a
science
science
et
and innovation
l'innovation.
hub.
Critically, the government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry, using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada homes. This mission-driven organization will act to accelerate the development of new affordable housing. It will invest in the growth of the prefabricated and modular housing industry, and it will provide significant financing to affordable home builders. The government will make the housing market work better, including by cutting municipal development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. The government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down. To be truly strong, Canada must be secure. To that end, the government will introduce legislation to enhance security at Canada's borders. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will have new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its precursors. The Canada Border Services Agency will be given new powers to examine goods destined for export to prevent the transport of illegal and stolen products, including cars. Le gouvernement protégera la souveraineté du Canada.
The government will protect the sovereignty of Canada by rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces. It will spur the expansion of the Canadian defense industry by taking part in the Rearm Europe plan, and will thus contribute alongside European partners to transatlantic security. And it will invest to strengthen and boost Canada's presence in the north, because this region, which is an integral part of the Canadian nation, is now facing new threats.
The government will discharge its duty to protect Canadians and their sovereign rights from wherever challenges may come at home or abroad. To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCMP personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel, and canine teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border. It will take these steps while protecting the rights of law-abiding gun owners and Indigenous peoples' long-standing hunting traditions. The government will bring a renewed focus on car theft and home invasions by toughening the criminal code to make bail harder to get for repeat offenders charged with committing these crimes, along with human trafficking and drug smuggling. During this time of great change, Canadians are uniting behind what makes Canada unique. La langue française et la culture québécoise
The French language
sont au cœur
and
de
Quebec culture
l'identité
are
canadienne.
at the very center of Canadian
Elles
identity.
définissent le pays
They
que les
define the
Canadiens,
country
les Canadiennes et moi
that all
aimons
Canadians
tant.
and myself
Le
hold so
Canada est
dear.
un pays où
Canada
l'on
is a
respecte et
country
célèbre
that
les langues
respects
officielles
and celebrates
et les langues
its official languages
autochtones.
and indigenous languages.
Le gouvernement est déterminé à
The
protéger
government is resolute
les
in its determination
qui
to
font
protect
rayonner
those
ces
institutions
cultures et cette
that highlight
identité
and promote
dans
that
le monde
identity
entier,
around the world,
comme CBC
such
Radio
as
Canada.
CBC Radio-Canada,
Protéger ceux qui
to
nous donnent
protect
accès
those who give
à
us
des aliments
access
frais,
to
sains
fresh,
et de qualité,
healthy, and
les
high-quality
producteurs
food,
agricoles,
our farm
et protéger
producers,
la gestion
and to
de
protect supply management.
Nature is core to Canada's identity. In 2022, Canada convened COP15 in Montreal, which concluded with 196 countries striking a historic agreement to protect 30% of their lands and 30% of waters by 2030. To this end, the government will protect more of Canada's nature than ever before through the creation of new national parks, national urban parks, marine protected areas, and other conservation initiatives. The government will always protect the rights and freedoms that the Charter guarantees for every Canadian. The government will be a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples, upholding its fundamental commitment to advancing reconciliation. Central to this commitment is the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity with Indigenous peoples. For that reason, the government will double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. As Canada moves forward with nation-building projects, the government will always be firmly guided by the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Canada's immigration system has long been a source of pride for Canadians and of dynamism for the economy. The government is dedicated to rebuilding the trust of Canadians in immigration by restoring balance to the system. Le gouvernement instaurera une limite sur le nombre de travailleurs étrangers temporaires
on the number of temporary foreign workers and international students, establishing a cap which, starting in 2027, will be below 5% of Canada's population. At the same time, it will attract the best talent in the world to build the economy. And it will make it known to Canadians working abroad that if they are thinking of coming back home, there is no better time than now. In all its actions, the government will be guided by a new fiscal discipline, spending less so that Canadians can invest more.
Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. In parallel, the government will take a series of measures to catalyse new investment, to create better jobs and higher incomes for Canadians. The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our times and the ambitions of Canadians. Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. À vous et à l'ensemble du peuple
To
canadien,
you and to all the people of Canada, my wife and I wish to extend our sincere thanks for this, the warmest of welcomes.
As the anthem reminds us, the true North is indeed strong and free. Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorised by Parliament. May you honour the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.